Why do a lot of people think black people can't be racist? Oh well. As a petite Asian woman, I have unfortunately received a lot of racism from black people when I was in the SOUNTH. What has happened is that some people have redefined what the word racism means to mean something like the majority discriminating against a minority racial category that has been historically discriminated against, and since white people have not been historically discriminated against in America, white people don't qualify as people who can be the target of racism by that definition. Of course, the actual definition is just that one thinks one race is superior to another race. So black people can absolutely be racist by the actual classic definition. The idea that any race cannot be racist is in my view racist in and of itself. It's the racism of low expectations. But I am also biracial, and that 100% colors my perspective on it. Have you ever been a white person in a black neighborhood? Then you know that some black people can be racist. I have also wondered why racism is nowadays defined as white people discriminating people of color. I think it is also racist to say all white people are the same and to make hateful comments about us. I use Europe as example because I live in Europe alone. There are over 100 different cultures and almost as many ethnic groups. Some of us had never any part in slave trade and colonization. In fact, some European countries were colonized and their people enslaved. I am from Finland, which is one of those countries. Our land was colonized in 1100 to 1200 by crusaders who forced us to practice Christianity and forget our own ways and our natural religion. We were enslaved by Swedish people after that with no human rights. We couldn't practice our culture and we didn't even have right to our language. We were forced to work for the Swedish landowners until Russia took over in 1800. It wasn't until 1917 when we got our independence. Before 20th century, Finnish people weren't recognized as people. We didn't even have written the language. But it wasn't like suddenly everything changed. Swedish people still are today the wealthiest and most powerful people in our country. And between then and now there has been many issues. Like no one in Finland wants to learn Swedish, but we are forced to learn it in schools. I know Finland is not only country with similar past. I know many Eastern European country has also went through some unfortunate times. So, it is wrong to assume that all white people are successors of people who did slave trade and colonization. And even though some white people are from countries that took part in those things, they shouldn't be punished for it. They have nothing to do with those things. So it is wrong to judge them because of it. As a black female, I live in the US. This question has been on my heart too. I see lots of people of all races being horrible to others just because they are a different skin tone. For so many different reasons. Here is what I have concluded. Systemic racism affects us all, but does affect people of color in disproportionately negative ways. However, anyone can be racially biased, hold prejudice, or be blatantly racist. I think the term needs to evolve. I strongly believe that honest communication and education is the best way to change the average person's heart. There are always going to be people who are violent or just plain pieces of shit. And I don't recommend trying to engage with people like that at all. But I do see a lot of people just crucified on Reddit for things they legitimately do not know and would never know, or feel comfortable to ask. It's never your job to educate someone, unless you're a teacher. And kudos to you. But sometimes having a bit of patience and empathy to explain why something isn't okay to say is the best way. Always be kind. but firm. Say, hey, please don't say, do. You probably wouldn't like it if I said, did the same thing to you. And we are all born in the skin we are in. If there is a historical reason, or a cultural one, it's always helpful to give a little background. Again, be kind. Allow them to ask questions. Have open discussion. Human connection can only form when we don't feel defensive. Systemic racism has also made white people into one race devoid of culture, when in fact it is made up of people from all countries and backgrounds. And that's sad. I'm not trying to take away from any of the horror our past holds as a country. I just think we can't move forward until we start seeing each other as other humans who are just trying to figure shit out. Life is fucking hard already. I feel like we should try to address systemic problems without acting like everyone purposely contributes to it. TLDR. Black people can definitely be racist. And everyone has a right to feel comfortable with the way they were born. But don't be a piece of shit about it. Only idiots think humans are incapable of racism. As often happens, academia breaks down and defines, redefines, and creates new terminology in order to further analyze and understand complex ideas. The study of racism across multiple disciplines like history, literature, sociology, etc., created new ideas and definitions. And in the full context of those conversations, it makes sense. Eventually, bits and pieces and sound bites make their way down to general usage. And people grab onto the partial ideas that benefit them and their personal biases, beliefs, ideologies, and goals. The end result is single, isolated, out-of-context ideas and definitions that are clearly false, such as black people can't be racist, being touted by people as demonstrably true because academia said it is true. Because the media only highlights the racism by whites. Because the word racism has had its definition changed to fit a narrative, where everywhere else, racism means discrimination or prejudice based on race. In America it means systematic racism or prejudice. I disagree with the definition change because it only worsens race issues in America. Anyone can be racist. Saying someone is incapable of racism is the same as saying they're incapable of hate. That's not a thing. Racism and oppression are different, but the current mood in America is that if you're white you're racist. And if you deny that, you are a Klansman. And if you speak about it, you are a Nazi. It's very strange. But I think this is an overcorrection to past injustices. People feeling like they are owed something for ancestral suffering and other groups of people feeling guilty for that suffering and other groups of people feeling like they are not at fault for what happened 50, 100, 1,000ths of a year ago is putting society at a moral standstill that will take a while to balance out. That confuses me too. In my experience, anyone can be racist. It is just tolerated from some people, which is 100% unacceptable. My wife is mixed race, white, British, black, Caribbean. Her mom is English and her father Grenadian. And she has experienced racism from both sides of the divide. Her opinion is that many black, British, Caribbean people, even members of her own family, are extremely racist but don't get called out for it because people are afraid of being called racist themselves. Personally, I feel that defining people by race is a 100% negative approach to society as it encourages people to group with their racial identity, leading to an artificial divide in communities. Don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with celebrating your culture and background, but it shouldn't be at the expense of your individuality or be your sole defining characteristic. I had a professor in college who preached this during my freshman-level humanities required course. His message was nearly word for word, African Americans cannot, by definition, be racist. The guy was a clown but rarely got challenged on it for various reasons. Black people can be racist. And there's actually a pretty big ongoing trend of black on Asian racism. The current focus is so heavily on the past injustices done to black people in America that people just will not accept hearing about any wrongdoing on their part. Black on white racism is just ignored or hand-waved away. Presently. I'm sure that will change. In time. Who thinks that anyone can be racist? Jewish, Asian and other people who faced persecution but still somehow managed to hate someone for not being a particular race or looking a certain way. It's ironic, really. Because they are racist morons. Some lies are very liberating. IDK. Everyone's capable of being hateful. Has nothing to do with race. Really just as simple as don't be dick. They say black people can't be racist because of systemic power. Yet these people are pretending that no black people hold any positions of power over any white people. I've had just 6 bosses in my life. 3 of them were black and 1 was Puerto Rican. They had systemic power over me. Thankfully they were wonderful people. But if they ever impacted me negatively because we were different races, it would have been racism. Because if blacks are by definition incapable of racism, it excuses their actual racism. White SJW types go along with it as a misguided form of virtue signaling.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.